Question. What do you get when you take some of the biggest R&B, soul, and blues singers of the late 70s, early 80s, and hell, even of all time, and combine it with a beloved recurring sketch on Saturday Night Live? Well, you get my 21st favorite movie of all time, and that is, of course, the 1980 comedy, The Blues Brothers. Now, when it comes to Saturday Night Live sketches making the transitions to the big screen, most people will say that there are only two good ones, Wayne's World and this. Well, I think that's going a little too much. There is no doubt that those two are the best SNL movies. So, how does the Blues Brothers transition from a recurring musical number on Saturday Night Live to a feature-length film? Well, kind of like this. The story is a tale of redemption for paroled convict Jake, played by John Belushi, and his brother Elward, played by Dan Aykroyd, who take on a mission from God to save from foreclosure the Catholic orphanage in which they grew up in. To do so, they must reunite their rhythm and blues band and organize a performance to earn $5,000 to pay the tax assessor. Along the way, they are targeted by a destructive mystery woman, played by Carrie Fisher, neo-Nazis, and a country and western band, all while being relentlessly pursued by the police. This movie is not just one of the funniest comedies ever made, but it's one of the biggest and most insane movies ever made. It's incredible how just these two guys caused so much chaos and mayhem all across the country, and it all culminated in probably one of the most over-the-top, if not the most over-the-top and ultimate car crashes you will ever see in the third act. I mean, this was back when comedies really took... movies in general just took these big chances. For a big comedy like this to have as many big stunt work scenes like this and special effects shots like this, like, it's incredible. And consider this too, that this came a year after the flop of 1941, Steven Spielberg's 1941, which also starred John Belushi, which was a flop when it came out, but man, that is such a fun... That's another one of those big budget comedies that went all in. Didn't work out then, but it works out in this movie, and like, really, the moments when they're going through the mall, driving in the car, and then the end when they're trying to get to the place to get the money to the tax assessor. I mean, it's just such brilliantly fun, over-the-top zaniness, and I love every moment of it. It also helps that you have both Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. They work off each other so well. They have a lot of great comedic moments, even when they're not showing it on their faces. Go back to that mall scene I was talking about before. Look at how emotionless they are, and yet they can still provide great jokes in the process. They're going through this mall, and they just look around and just say what's there, just like baby stores and all that type of stuff. And like, there's literally no emotion on their faces, but man... it still works because you have so much great comedic material between those two working with that. And like I said before, it's so hilariously over the top, and it looks all real. This is back when you didn't have a whole lot of CG or special effects, and it definitely shows, not just in that scene in particular in the mall, but in the rest of the movie as well. And the rest of the comedy works incredibly well, and a great supporting cast that works so well with the material. It's got one of the biggest comedy casts, I think, at the time. I mean, as I mentioned before, Carrie Fisher, you have Henry Gibson as one of the neo-Nazis, John Candy's in this movie, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Cab Calloway, James Brown, Charles Napier, Steven Spielberg makes a cameo towards the end, just so many other ones, and they all work well with the material given to them. And the songs are just incredible, too. I mean, this is just the classic music that seems to perfectly fit this movie so well, making it with some of the best musicians of the genre used, and... man, this movie is just amazing. There's just so much greatness to this movie that not only the cast and musicians bring to it, but director John Landis brings to it. He was on a hot streak around this time. I mean, not only did he do comedies like this and also Animal House, but then you do a couple of a horror movie, a horror comedy, an American Werewolf in London, and followed it up with Michael Jackson's Thriller. And then you do comedies like Trading Places and also Coming to America. I mean, the 70s and 80s were John Landis' time, and it's a shame that he can't make those same big comedies that he did back in the day, but man, that was that must have been a really good fun time whenever he had a new movie coming out. I mean, that was just, they managed to make a great, funny, over-the-top comedy in this. So much mayhem, so much chaos. It looks so realistic in all aspects, something that a lot of movies feel like they can't really do today, and everything about this movie just works. The Blues Brothers, it's a funny, smart, over-the-top comedy with everything working for it. I love it. You love it too, more than likely. It's an institution. It's one of the greatest comedies of all time. It's my 21st favorite film of all time. So So that's going to do it for this week, and we're heading into the top 20, starting with next week. So check out that. Check out some of the other videos I've done in this particular show, and I will see you guys next time. So until then, as always, take care.